Hey guys, Dexter here. Today I'm going to be covering the Brawler tier list. I'm going to quickly explain what a Brawler even is. A Brawler is essentially a melee unit that deals a lot of damage but has less HP than a tank. So starting at God tier, we have Servant. They have a unique ability called Insignificant Other. It allows them to not get focused by creeps. So if you have any other unit behind them generating aggro, which means they attack creeps, they won't get focused. What that means, if you have a lot of these, they will provide a lot of defensive bonuses to your already existing army, like range units or melee tanks. It doesn't matter. They're gonna block creeps. Less leaks are gonna reach your melee units. So what that means, it's just gonna make everything survive a lot better. And the upgraded version actually gives you gold for every surviving servant and Slavemaster. So if you can easily greet these out, you should do it, especially early game. Next up in S tier, we have Footman, which turns into God. They are really tanky when upgraded, and they actually have really good early game. And they have a unique ability, which allows them to take less damage from piercing attacks. So they tank quite well on 4 and 7, which other tanks even struggle with. So this brawler here is pretty good versus both of these. Next up we have Grizzly, which turns into Greymane. The Greymane has not a lot of HP, but it does a lot of damage. It does like double the damage of a guard, but it also has a 25% damage increase with its buff and a 7 armor increase. So these early game are just beasting. They get you 1 to 5 basically if you find these on 1. Also really good versus 4 because of their buff. They don't take a lot of damage with their fortified armor anyways, and now they also have more armor. Next up we have Gnolls. They recently got buffed. Their upgraded version now has 150 range and more damage, more HP. The reason why they're so good now is because 150 range is gonna allow you to essentially put these behind any tank with 0 range, and they're gonna reach over these tanks and stay in safety behind them, because 150 range can attack like one line behind 0 range. So these are really good support brawlers for your, if you have a lot of tanks and you find these, you can add them really easily, as it just gonna increase your DPS. It has a slow. It's super good now. Next up we have Frenzy Ghoul. It is actually better than I thought it was. I recently tested a few builds and you actually need a lot of these on 1. So if you upgrade like 2 of these and spam the rest of your money into unupgraded ghouls, you're gonna hold easily 1. But if you upgrade every single one of these, they're gonna destroy 4 as well, or come close at least. And since they're a brawler, they're pretty good versus 4. Next up we have Raider. They summon a wolf that crits. If you upgrade the Raider, the wolf can actually one-shot champions on level 1 and 2. It deals 400 damage. Overall it's a really cheap and good brawler, especially early game, but it struggles really hard versus 4 and 7 and 8. Next up we have Pandaren. They are a surprisingly good melee brawler. They have Frost Nova that slows in a good radius, and they actually have quite the insane attack speed and damage for their cost. So keep that in mind, they are really good early game. Next up we have Cyborg, which turns into kro'goth. It is very expensive. It is not that great early game, but if you're mid game, you have a lot of income and you find these, and you don't have a lot of frontline, they can crit for almost 800 damage. Next up we have, starting with B tier, we have Gateguard. It is basically a counterpart to Raider. It has a summon, but the summon doesn't deal as much damage as the Raider does. It has a small stun, but the damage is just nowhere near the Raider. Next up we have Knight, which turns into Cavalier. It is very expensive. It is pretty decent damage, let's just say that. It has reduced damage from everything, and it crits for 130, 100% of the time versus fortified armor. So versus fortified armor it's really good, but besides that it's pretty subpar. Stat wise it is really low HP. Sure, it takes less damage, but the HP is not gonna cover for that. Next up we have Peewee, which turns into Veteran. They are pretty much only good for 1 and 2. You need to invest a lot of gold if you want to hold 3 and 4 with these if you don't find anything else. Besides that, they're pretty garbage. Next up we have Ogres. They got buffed recently, but I don't think it will be enough for them to actually matter right now. Their damage is reliant on their bash, which is a proc chance, and that's never a good thing basically. Especially since the added damage is not that high. The upgraded version does like 80 plus damage on a bash, and if you compare it with a wolf that does 400 damage, this one's gonna... nope. 4, 7 and 8, and this unit is just gonna die instantly every time. Next up we have Wolverine. The max upgrade, the other ones are just garbage. Wolverines are actually pretty terrible. They're okay for 1 and 2, but 3 and 4, it's a nightmare. And of course garbage tier, I won't talk about these. These are pretty dysfunctional right now. They work maybe for 1 and 2, but that's about how far these go. 3 and 4 are just, yeah, really bad for these. This will be it for this tier list. Next up, I'm planning to finish all of those remaining tier lists, which means there's gonna be 2 more tier list videos. After that, I'm probably gonna do gameplay or more tutorials on how to play the game. I don't know. Not sure yet. But anyways, thanks for listening and have a good day.